Right, okay everyone, think I have been both looking forward to while actually simultaneously dreading painting up this Eldari Farseer. Now, what the plan is, as far as I'm concerned, is to do Craftworld Ulthwe. Now, that's partly at this point because I don't just want to follow the tutorials, I want to do things my own way. It's also slightly about kind of, I'm hoping, because I don't know this absolutely yet, but I'm hoping this will also be a palette swap because I believe we're going to get Chaos Space Marines first, who would normally be done in Black Legion colours. So potentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing Ulthwe so that I'm showing a different approach, but also, you know, palette swapping with the Chaos Space Marines. Right, so I'm going to use Abaddon Black to begin with. And I'm just going to start off by kind of hitting some of the key areas. Now, as a rule, I'm going to put some of these things out of the way because sometimes the camera doesn't half like to focus in the wrong place if I don't. You know, there's a lot of highly skilled painters out there who were put me to shame, as I have often said. There's no other way to put it, you know, but I'm going to try my best to do this guy and do him justice. There is no real armour on the Farseer other than the helmet. So a lot of his primary colouring is kind of coming from the cloak. Now I've got to be very careful because I need to get this black here. I'm not really worried at this point that I'm going over that decal at the front because I need to get my paint right down the inside. And I promised myself that I will only use the paints that I've currently officially got through Combat Patrol. I am going to cheat a tiny bit. I'm still going to only use paints that come with Combat Patrol, but technically this is Let's Paint issue 21. But I also have issue 22 and the paints that come with that. And I really, really, really want to use the Avalanche Sunset on this video. So I am going to cheat a tiny bit. I'm sticking to my promise of only using colours that we get with the collection, but I'm just going to kind of borrow from a future issue. Right. Now, see, this is the fun now of trying to get this whole thing painted up just the right way. So it's all about like kind of paying attention to what parts of the cloak should be what colour. Don't know why, but everything seems very dark today. I don't know why. Add a bit of light, shall I? That's probably the best colour. I'm also really thinning out the paint because my personal experience of using Abaddon Black is that it clumps if you don't really water it down as you go. That's my personal experience. And normally I would have actually preferred to use the Black Legion Contrast, and in all honesty I think they should have given us Black Legion Contrast, not Abaddon Black. That's my personal opinion, because I just think that it goes on better. It goes on better, it goes on easier. I don't normally think that, you know, everyone should just charge straight into using contrast paints because they can be a bit tricky. but the Black Legion contrast one's just such an amazing one that I feel it should always be the default. And colour-wise and appearance-wise, it would almost be the same as well. It's not got that much of a difference either. Come on now, come along, do what I need you to do and go where I need you to go. Right, so you can see there's normally, if you're following the official guides, you would be using red where I'm using black. Okay, now next colour that I need to start applying here is I need to start getting some Wraithbone down. This is one of the other Ulthwe core colours. And I'm going to apply this on this armour here. And I'm really trying to get like kind of gently and slowly underlips of things and making sure that everything is applied properly, which is always a lot of fun. Yeah, I can remember when I was a kid and I didn't really understand the idea of thinning your paint and just assumed that you just like slap all the paint on as hard and as fast as possible. And then over the years I've got better and better and better. Probably not steadier with my hand because, well, a little bit obviously, but not by a lot. That's all I've really gained with age and experience. What I've really gained is patience to not rush things. Quite an interesting looking helmet this as well. It's very, I'm trying to think how I can describe it best, really. Like unusual. See, one thing that I really love about the Eldari is if you kind of look at the Warhammer Aelfin or Elven races, there's definitely a beautiful link back between them. It's one of the things that I really like about Warhammer across the 40k and things is that they're kind of, one's a fantasy world, one's a science, I'm going to call it science fantasy world, as in like it's sci-fi but it's more fantastical than sci-fi. So basically science fantasy. Yeah, and just the fact that so many of the races blend across. I just find that really endearing personally. I think it's great at the fact that the factions kind of bleed into each other. Get this cloak here, this little run of streamer. You know, I was thinking to myself, I think I said on a video, well, it's been years since I've painted an Eldar model, an Eldari model, and then I realised, you know what, I actually haven't ever painted an Eldari model. What I've painted is I've helped my nephew paint an Eldari model, but I have never personally painted one myself. You know, done it the whole thing. So when I've sort of sat back and thought about it, I'm like, actually, this is a learning curve for me. Right, this belt here. Oh, gosh, trying to get it in the right place without painting into the wrong place, so to speak. I think as well, I want to be able to get a clear distinction between cloth and wraithbone armour at some point. So that's going to have to be kind of thinking about my highlighting at some point. I can't seem to get there. There we go. Oh, gosh, that is not an easy little bit to get at, but I've managed it. Okay, so you can hopefully see that it's starting to kind of build up quite nicely now in the core areas. So I'm just always kind of mindful with things like the Eldari, because you don't want to go over the top with things like leatherwork and stuff. You know, it's all right in some places, but it doesn't quite work for the faction. Probably works for the Drukhari, the Raider elves, but not quite this one. Right. Okay. So I've got that bit done now. Trying to be patient. I'm saying to myself, you know what, I'd rather do a very long job and get it right than rush and get it wrong. Right. What's next then with this guy? So what I need to do is I need to look at, let me find it. Right, so this is where I'm cheating a bit. This is, even though I'm painting issue 21, this is from issue 22. But I want this colour perfectly on here. So I'm going to use my Avalon Sunset. It's going to make him look like a bee, but I'm not really worried about that too much. I'm not overly worried anyway. It should look quite nice, this. I say should. Everything is open to debate. You might not like the idea of using yellow and black together, but I don't want the cloak to appear too dark. I really want to lighten it up. And unfortunately, quite a lot of the colours we've got are somewhat dull. it's too bad that I don't have a contrast yellow, because if I was using like a contrast yellow here, like Imperial Fist, because I've used the Zenithal undercoat, it would have actually beautifully picked up the colours used that are sprayed, which it does in a minor way with using like a solid Games Workshop colour, but it just doesn't work as well. You know, if you don't like the idea of using yellow, then your alternatives are red cloak or potentially a blue one. It depends how unique you want them to look, because what you've got to remember is if you've used blue on your Ultramarines or your, look at that, I've got a black splodge there where I've messed up on my painting, and yeah, so yeah, just be mindful about, if you want each faction to look unique and different, just sort of consider carefully what colours you're using. So it's why I'm using yellow, because I'm reasonably confident that yellow is not really going to be used. I think it's potentially going to be used on the Orcs, because I think we're going to be doing Bad Moons. Except I'm not going to be doing Bad Moons. In fact, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing with my Orcs yet. Again, I think the idea of palette swapping is definitely a good concept for the future. If I've done it with most of my combat patrol, I might as well finish that process basically, right? Just trying to add a second layer of yellow. Unfortunately, I love yellow as a colour, but my goodness, it doesn't have streak. Potentially I might even end up having to do 3 coats of yellow. Yeah, if I was using the Imperial Fist contrast, what you would find would be happening here is, as I'm adding the yellow, it would kind of pick up basically the Zenithal undercoat that I've been doing. There's probably a lot of people who have seen that I've done a Zenithal undercoat, and then I'm just basically ruining it by blobbing normal paint over it instead of contrasts. But it's force of habit that I do a Zenithal. Even if I'm not doing a high contrast painting method, I still think it kind of does slightly show up. Not as well as you would want, but it does. Right. I feel like everything is very dark today. I don't know why. Everything feels dark today. Maybe it's my eyes, I don't know, but kind of looking down the camera and it looks dark. Oh, right. Now, what I'm going to do next is, now that I've got my yellow down, I'm going to get the inside of this. Which I'm going to use Rakarth Flesh for, because I still think that it looks like a good lining. It's got a bit more darkness to it. Because I don't want it, see, I don't want to do a colour on the inside of this. That's just not going to work. It's going to look too much. Too many colours going on, unfortunately, if I do that approach. brushes decided to start splitting on me. I think I need to swap over to a bit of a thinner brush right now. Just so I can get into these little crevices here without getting paint all in the wrong places. I do have a better quality set of brushes than this. It's just I promised myself while I was doing these tutorials to not give myself any major advantage. So, you know, I've got an expensive set of brushes, which would make my life a lot easier right now, but I promised myself that I would use just either the brushes that came with Combat Patrol or cheap brushes from the range that anyone could just kind of pop out and grab hold of. I'm sure that's where I got these from anyway. I'm sure I picked these up at the range, these brown ones. They actually have quite a nice grip as well for cheap brushes. Okay, and that's the Recarth Flesh just on the underside. I think it probably, when it's dried, it probably needs a second coat just to improve things a bit. It's not quite perfectly laid, for want of a better word. Right. Now, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, go and grab a paint from issue 22, which is the Curtain Flesh. And the reason behind this is I've got some leather work that I want to do now, which is like things like the satchels. Trying to get behind all the little bits here, making sure that they're all done nicely. Basically anywhere that looks like a satchel, a belt or similar, which I believe on the guide in Combat Patrol itself, in the issue 22, it's actually showing it done in black, but I want to kind of do mine in brown to help them stand out a little bit more. Now, what I think I want to do next is start picking out some of the colours. So I've got to be careful here because you've got things like this which are like gloves. Now, personally, I can't decide if I should try and do those in kind of, I think they should be, gosh, this is the hard part now, you see, because I'm kind of like on one side, I think they really ought to be black, to be quite honest. I think his arms and his hands should be in black, but I'm worried about that being, you know, just a continuous flow of black all the way along. That said, you've got these bangles to break up the flow of it a bit, so I think we'll be all right doing that. So I think I should be okay doing that in black. I was debating if I should do it in a different colour, but I've just realised how odd it's going to look if I start adding more on colours, or if I did yellow, I think it would look somewhat strange, to be quite honest. Oh, I keep knocking my camera, I do apologise. Really not feeling balanced today. I spent far too long painting yesterday and I've locked up my back. I probably shouldn't just spend my YouTube videos complaining about my back, but you know, makes me feel better. Having a good bloody wine over it is making me feel better some days. Right. Now, what I need to do next is start pulling out a few of the core details, so like the golden colours. I know a huge amount of people as well who paint Eldar who would rather not use actual metallics, and they use non-metallic metals, which looks absolutely stunning, don't get me wrong. All credit to them for going through that effort. But I've tried to make non-metallic metals before now. Aside from being very, very hard to master, it also takes so long to do that for someone like myself who, you know, can't dedicate every second of every day to my hobby, yeah, I need to basically find ways to get things done, well, quickly. But I have to admit, I think non-metallic metals do look better on the Eldar, because I don't know, it feels better to have something. It feels like more, it feels alien, if you get my meaning. It feels like that kind of, how do I put it, with the Eldar, they are humanoid. Their facial features have certain links to humans, but in this, they're also slightly off, like that kind of uncanny valley thing where you're looking at it and you're going, yes, that's a face, but then your brain goes, but the eyes are too big, and you know, that's the uncanny valley, isn't it? It's like, there's things that are similar to what we expect, but something is not quite right. And adding non-metallic metals, I'm going to make my point any second now, adding non-metallic metals, to my mind, adds to that otherness. So I have absolutely nothing but complete and utter respect for those who take the effort to do that and add that level of complexity in. now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do all my little gem details and things now. This is this is where it starts becoming a long process, unfortunately. But it is coming along, it's getting there, it's feeling good now. Right, where else do I need to go? I need to go all the way down to this part as well. And around this side, and we are getting there. So you think every single thing, you think I'm just a little bit closer, just a little bit closer, and then you turn around and you spin the model and you go, nope, there's still that bit to do and that bit to do. And then you, if you're like me, who has a terribly unsteady hand, you make up little mistakes as you go along. I hope you can see what I'm doing here, because it's not easy, and I don't know what it is today, but it feels like there's just not much light getting into my studio. Not in any proper way, anyway. Right. Okay, now, this'll be fun. I think I'm doing well there. I think I'm doing pretty well. Not completely going over the lines, but it's hard to tell some days until you get right up on the camera, isn't it? Then you realise that it's nowhere near as good as you thought it was. And you look at it, I'm looking at it through the camera going, yeah, I've not quite got that perfect. But it's starting to come along now, so I'm becoming quite pleased with myself, actually. I'm finding this a very difficult paint job, to say the least. Right, how am I doing so far? Right. Right, let me get my lead belcher now to do the spear tip. Again, you know, don't be afraid to do things like that spear tip if you want to, though, in something like Wraithbone. That would actually work as a colour. And again, it would just reduce the amount of metallics you're using on it. Oh, right, time to do the boots. So again, I'm going to head back over to my Catachan flesh. Gosh, this Catachan flesh that I've got here is really drying out. I probably need to add a bit of something to thin it out. Oh, what did I do there? I've just slipped and put some brown on the black, which I don't want. I'll have to go over that later. Right, and then I'm going to just do a double check here if there's any little leather bits that I might have missed. You see, I've just realised I haven't done the belt here. It's like a constant stream of what have I missed some days. Just checking where that little belt thing goes into. But I think we've done there. I suppose the only thing I really need to decide now is what colour I want to do the shaft of this, and potentially the gems. Now I think because I've used a lot of like creams and whites, probably doing the shaft of this, I'm going to use this burgundy just to give a little difference in colouring now, just to break the colours up. Right, and then I'm going to start popping in some of these gems as well. I need to really clean my brush off. I've got far too much paint there for gems. I'm going to do... These are basically soul stones, so basically I'm pretty certain they're soul stones anyway. It's just really now about picking colours for them. Right, get some, again this is where it's all kind of swapping different colours and deciding what colours you like for your gems. And when this is done, I'm going to step back, have a quick look at it, make sure that I'm happy, and if I have everything done as it should be, just a few little gems to pick out here and there. That one there. Where else have I got gems? Now, it looks like there's gems actually on the helmet here, but they need to be kind of left for now according to the instructions. Just going to check what other gems need finishing off. Gem there. Got one there. Right, going to do a little bit of red gems as well. And we're done just after we put this last little bit on. So, ooh, I've lost where I'm doing this red gem. There it is. Okay, and I think that is where we need to be up to at this point. So, that is the Farseer. Currently painted up. Of course, there'll be extra steps to do later on. I do see, now that I'm done that, there's a couple of extra layering and a couple of mistakes that I need to fix up. But other than that, that is our Farseer now, completed up to kind of issue 21 and 22 as well. So, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.